Welcome to the first, I'm used to saying IG Live, but I guess it's Facebook Live. I decided to do the video tutorials after the Lawren was published or came out because I wanted to do a video series where I have your feedback and your questions and that you could like partake in. And if I pre-recorded the videos, then I wouldn't have that option for you to ask questions. You could after the fact, but I like that you guys get excited about the videos and watch it in real time. So I just kind of wanted to test this platform out. Also, it encourages people to join the Facebook group, which I think is great because I know that there are a lot of like people feel not as comfortable on Instagram posting their photos as in the Facebook group. So I just think it's just something new for me to try. So I'm gonna see, okay, everybody's watching, no comments. Feel free, I'll be stepping back and forth to look at the questions in the comments. So if you have any comments or questions, put them in the chat box and I will address them and answer them as best that I can. So in the first video tutorial for the Lawren, I want to go over one inspiration because I'd like people to know, how I was inspired, what my main goals are for this style. Not really like a goal, but what I was trying to achieve with this style, how I see it being worn. And then I'm going to go through finding your size, and then just a few pattern alterations. One of the biggest ones is if you measure bigger up top versus down below, how would you adjust for that? Let's say you're like an XL on the top and then like a medium for the bottom. Of course, the lawnmower comes by. Hasn't been here in like 2 weeks. So excuse the noise. So the first thing I want to go over is the design inspiration. So when the pandemic first started, I didn't want to go shopping because I wasn't going anywhere, but I did want to update my wardrobe and like have something new and stuff like that. So I was like, what is like a really easy make that I could sew up in like 2 hours and then, kind of fill that void in my wardrobe. And the Madeline Simplicity 8435, which was a discontinued bodysuit pattern. I sewed that up, I eliminated the Henley, I put in a V-neck and wore it, and you guys were like, what are you wearing? Do you have a kit for that? What pattern is it? And I need it ASAP. And I was like, well, it isn't really a, hold on one second. Katie, will you do me a huge favor? I kind of want to ask him to stop mowing the lawn.
Do you want me to see if I can do it?
Yeah. Just say we're like filming for the next like 20 minutes and because that's really loud.
Oh, let me put my
Fob. I just saw him walk inside. Sorry, I'm gonna go ask the guy if he'll stop mowing for like 20 minutes. Yeah. So I came out with, I wore the 8435 bodysuit. You guys loved it. It had a V-neck. And I was like, I can come out with a kit for it, but it really doesn't follow the pattern instructions. If you're cool with that, I'll do like a quick blog post. And and so it did so well. I was in the final stages of finishing the Maris, releasing that, and I made a mental note and was like, hey, next pattern needs to be a bodysuit. Needs, no question. So I kind of looked through bodysuit design ideas and I found one, and what I really liked about it was that it had a waist seam. And the hardest part about bodysuits is that, it's either too long or too short, or you fit it on top or you don't fit it on bottom. So that's what I love most about the Lawren, is that it has that waist seam that you can use different sizes and adjust easily. And I just think that the paneling, the princess seam, but also the lace paneling on it is super flattering. All the lines go in at the waist and then they go out at the hips. So I really think that I know this word isn't used, it's kind of gotten some negative feedback lately, is flattering, but I do think that it is flattering for a lot of women. And from what I've seen so far with people sewing them up is that it's a really quick sew. It doesn't take a long time, which nowadays you don't want to take on a project that takes like, 2 weeks to accomplish. Definitely get this done in a couple of hours. So that was the design inspiration for the Lawren, and I am over the moon about the response I've received from it. And I just can't wait to continue to see all of you guys make it. So the first thing I want to go over is finding your size. It is something that I feel like a lot of women get tripped up about, wait, hold on, I need to measure myself? How do I do that? Is this like rocket science? Do I have long division? Do I have to subtract this from this and this? It's really easy, and I like to remind women how easy it is. It just requires a measuring tape. So I'm going to quickly do a little quick demo on how to measure yourself and then to find your size. So you see that I have these 2 papers here as well. So these are the handouts from the PDF pattern. So this is the size chart. So when you measure, you're going to use this size chart, match it up against that to find your size. So let's just do a little quick demo on how to take your full bust measurement. Oh, wait, no, I accidentally pressed cancel. Sorry about that, I almost ended the live video. So let's just do a quick demo here. Full bust, under bust, and waist measurement. So pretending that the computer is a mirror, you want to stand in the mirror. Obviously you won't have a bodysuit on when you do this, but you'll have yoga pants or a non-padded bra. But if your boobs do sag, then you want to wear something that kind of puts them in their upright shape. So the first measurement is, my floors aren't level, so she might be a little crooked. She's gonna fall, there we go. So you're gonna take your full bust measurement. You're gonna take your tape measure, you're going to wrap it all the way around your full bust. And you want to make sure that the tape measure is level all the way around. Now, a lot of women ask, how tight should this be? Should it be really tight? So if you're creating indents in your skin, it's probably too tight. So you want it to be tight enough that it stays taut around your body, but you don't want to be really pushing it tight that it's causing indentations. So you're gonna mark that measurement. And then you're gonna mark your under bust measurement, or you're gonna measure your under bust. So you see how it curves in? So right where your breasts meet your rib cage, that's your under bust measurement. And if you want to get technical, it's where your inframammary glands go away from your body, your rib cage. So you're gonna take your tape measure and you're gonna measure all the way around right underneath your bust. And that's why I do suggest wearing a bra, non-padded, because to take this measurement, if you have larger breasts, it can sometimes get difficult because you have to hold your breasts up in order to get this measurement. So you have to, then you're gonna record this measurement. This is your under bust measurement. So the next measurement is your waist. So that is the smallest part of your torso, is your waist. For some women it's higher, for some women it's lower. So you just want to make sure that it's the smallest part. And then your hips too. Also, if you're having trouble figuring out where your waist is, you might want to turn your body this way and you'll be able to see where the smallest part of your waist is. But for your full bust and your hips, it's better to look at yourself from the side because you can see where your most fullness is. Just gonna hop up here and make sure that there are no questions. Cool, awesome. Okay, so for the last measurement is your hips. So that's gonna be around the lowest part or the widest part of your bum, basically. And again, you wanna make sure that it's level all the way around. And then you're gonna take your hip measurement. So that's how you take your measurements. It's not rocket science. I suggest taking them a couple times because, let's see if she falls. She's a little lopsided. But the floors aren't level. Let's get this here. Okay. I suggest taking your measurements a couple times as well as throughout the month because your measurements can change. And it's not something, because you stretch fabrics or use the Lawren, you can go in between sizes and it doesn't really affect fit. But sometimes it's good to know your measurements and how much you fluctuate. If you fluctuate a lot, you might have to go up a size, or you might have to make like a size and a half. So it's just good to take your measurements a couple times, know your weight fluctuation. Once you have your measurements, you are going to use the printing and determining your size to, hey, guess what? Find your size. So let's just say that you measure a 34 for the full bust and then a 30 for the under bust. So 30 minus 34 is 4.5. So if you have a 4.5 difference, that makes you a double D F cup. Oh no, it makes you in between like a CD/double D F cup. If you're in the middle of sizes, I get this question a lot. If you're in the middle of sizes, I suggest sizing down because you'd rather lingerie be too tight or a little bit snug than loose. You'd rather something be stretched out rather than be too big. I know in sewing it's the opposite. Usually you want to sew big, cut small, but with lingerie, I do think that it's better to err on the smaller size versus the bigger size. You can still wear something that's slightly too small for lingerie, but it's harder to wear something that's slightly too big because it's bagging out. So that's how you find your size. Now, if you are, let's just say that you measure an extra large for the full bust, and but you measure a large for the waist and hip. This happened to 2 students at the workshop that was the Saturday before the Lawren was released. So what I did is I cut them. One student, I cut the extra large double DF cup for the bodice, and then I cut the large for the bottom. And I'm going to show you how to make the pattern alteration in order to adjust. But it really helps because not all women are perfectly proportioned, so to be able to make an extra small or an extra large on top and a large on bottom will result in a much better fit. Okay, so that's how you find your size. If you have any questions about sizing, put them in the comments, because I think I covered everything, but you might be wondering about something. So yeah. So more about, I'm on the section in your PDF pattern sewing instructor, more about torso lengths and adjusting for different heights. So the Lawren, my mind's still unmarried. The Lawren was developed based on somebody who was 65 to 67 inches. So if you're taller or shorter, you'll have to adjust the pattern. I'm going to go through that. It's really simple. But also, you might be thinking, well, what is short torso, what is long torso, and what is balanced torso? A lot of people just know this intuitively. I know that I'm short torso, I have long legs, but like, how do you know? Like, if you don't know, like, how do I figure it out? There are a couple ways, some are more accurate than others. One thing that you could do, well, first of all, what is short torso, what is balanced torso, and what is, so let's go over balance. So balanced is that you are the same measurement pretty much from your shoulders to your leg line and then from your leg line to the floor. Short torso is that you have a shorter torso from here to your waist and then from your waist down. And then long, or I always get these confused. Short torso, long torso. Legs are short compared to the upper body. One of the less accurate ways, but kind of, I have seen this a lot, like just, it's less accurate, but it's quicker, is to take your elbows and see where they hit at your waist. So if they hit right at your waist, supposedly, you're balanced. If they hit lower than your waist, again, this is not like super accurate, but it hit lower than your waist, then you have a long torso and short legs. If they hit higher than your waist, then you have, I always get this confused, if they're higher than your waist, then you have a short torso, long legs. Let me just double check that. Sit at your waist. If you're going to sit above your waist, then you have a long torso. That's right. Down in order for me to get it. But again, that is not really accurate. So another way that you can measure, or a more accurate way, is that you can measure yourself. So you can measure yourself from your high point of shoulder, and a lot of people ask, like, well, one of the pattern tests was like, well, where do I know where my high point of shoulder is? So usually if you're standing to the side, it's like right where your ear is like your highest point on your shoulder. So you're gonna measure from there down to your leg line. And then you're probably like, well, where is my leg line? So it's basically where your legs separate from your body. And you can tie a string around your body in order to determine that. I know a question. You can't reach the top shelf. Oh, that's funny. So you just tie a waist around where your legs separate from your body, and that's like your leg line. So you can measure from your shoulder to your leg line and then down, and then you'll be able to tell if you're short torso or long torso. For the Lawren, putting all that aside, for the Lawren, I think the easiest way to test if the proportions are going to be right is to make the panty portion. And I know somebody in the Facebook group, I suggested that to them. So make the panty portion, try it on, see where it hits. You'll immediately be able to tell if it hits at your waist, or if it's too high, or if it's too low, you need to adjust. If it hits at your waist, then you're good to go. If it's too high, then you'll have to reduce it. If it's too short, then you have to lengthen it. And I'll go over that when I go over the pattern alterations. So let's just say that it hits at your waist, and now you're concerned if the bodice is gonna fit, if it's gonna be too short. So an easy way is to, once you make the panty, try it on. If it sits at your waist, measure from your shoulder, let's see here. Measure from your shoulder line all the way over your breast and then to where the panty hits. Then cross-check that against the princess seam on your pattern, and you'll be able to tell if you need to add length or shorten it. This is especially important for the full bust gals, because that way if you measure over your bust, cross-check it to the pattern, you'll be able to tell if there's enough volume for your girls. So that's how you kind of check your torso length and make sure that the Lawren is going to work for your torso and legs. Okay, that's the inspo. That's how to find your size. Now I'm going to switch cameras, and I'm going to show you two pattern alterations. One is if you measure an extra large on top and a large on bottom, how would you adjust the pattern for that? Also, if you did your measurements and you need to reduce the height of the panty or reduce the height of the torso, how do you do that? Now, before I get to that, the reason why there are no shorten or lengthen lines on the pattern is that you might need to shorten it through the armhole, or you might need to shorten it through the side seam, or you might need to shorten it through the crotch area, or you might need to shorten it right here. So you need to determine that. That's why there are no lengthen or shorten lines, is that you could lengthen and shorten it in several places. So let me switch. Comments that just came up was, so you suggest making a toile over using measurements. So making a toile, a muslin, a practice fit is going to be the most accurate way to test if the length, if the proportions are correct. But let's just say you don't have enough elastic to sew the panty portion, or you don't have enough fabric to sew the panty portion, or you just want to really make a Lawren and don't want to make a toile. Then I suggest using the measurement. So it's one or the other. You can also use a combo of both, but I think making the muslin is the most accurate way to see how the proportions are going to fit. Okay, so the first thing, I think the easiest one is, so I have a size extra large for the bodice, CD cup, and then I have a large for the panty. So I'm going to overlap these 1/2 inch at the waistline, and that's how you would sew it. And you can see that when I go to sew the panty on to the bodice, you'll notice that the bodice is much bigger right at the side seam. So even though this is on a curve, and this is a little bit straight, the bodice will still be too big in order to fit into the panty. So for the pattern alteration, what you would do is you would cut this up, and you would do this to the front and the back. You would basically cut this off and then blend it to 0 at the armhole, so that when you join the bodice to the waist, they would be the same measurement. And you don't have to make any pattern alteration to the panty. And it would be the same if it was the opposite. So let's just say you were an extra large for the panty portion, but you were a large for the bodice. So the panty portion is going to be a little bit bigger. So you would taper in the panty to meet the bodice. Okay, so that's how you would use 2 different sizes for the bodice and the panty. Just make sure that if you do it to the front, you would do the same pattern alterations to the back. So let's just say you are short torso and you need to remove the length from the bodice. So you're going to be using a method that's called slash and close. The opposite is called slash and open. This is a basic pattern making tool or method to use. First, you need to determine, are you shortening it through the armhole, or are you shortening it through like your center right here? So let's just say you're shortening it through the center. So all you would do is you would determine, I need to remove 1 inch from the center portion of the bodice. So you're gonna pick arbitrarily, really. If you've made a muslin and you've pinned it out, use exactly where your pins are. And you would slice this all horizontally, all the way across. And if I am removing 1 inch, I would overlap them 1 inch. Now you will see, especially in the bust area, is that this is going to be a little bit, there's going to be like a little gap. So what you do is you're going to blend this pattern piece. This is called truing up your pattern. You're going to blend this curve back into the original curve down here to 0. And that's the way that you smooth it out. It's less on the center front panel. So somebody just asked, how do I know my measurements if I'm short in the torso or in the middle? So that, if you wanted to know where to take it out, that the more accurate way would be to make a muslin. So to figure out where you need to take it, out of the armhole or the center, the more accurate way is to make a toile. Now, if you're like me, a lot of people already know this, so I always know that my armhole is already too low, so I need to remove it through the armhole. What you could do is that you could cross-check the pattern and your body. So if you place a ruler right underneath your arm, so let's just say this is a body, and you would place a ruler underneath your arm going all the way across your body, cross-check this length to below the waist. That would be a measurement way to do it. But I think that making the muslin would be a more accurate way to see where you need to take out. So once you determine, now that you need to determine, we've taken out 1 inch from here, you would blend it to 0 at the princess seam. Now let's just say you needed to add 1 inch, so you would do the opposite, and you would spread it open 1 inch, and then you would redraw your pattern connecting these 2 pieces. Another comment just came out or question, I use cheap swimwear lining for my muslin, just to make sure you are accounting for the amount of stretch between your toile, see here, and your fashion fabric. Yeah, so if you are making a muslin, just make sure that your muslin and the final fabric that you're going to use have the same stretch percentage. So you can get a super cheap fabric, just make sure that if your final fabric has, let's just say 40% stretch, make sure that your muslin fabric has 40% stretch as well, because that will definitely affect the fit. So that's how you would slash and open, slash and close, adjust the pattern if it's too long, if it's too short. You would do the same thing to the panty, and just make sure that if you are increasing the torso height, I demonstrated on the front, but make sure you do the same thing to the back. And that's it, guys. So I hope that was understandable and helped a lot of people get started, because I know a lot of people who are getting started don't know what size to make, don't know the torso length is right. So I suggest making a muslin if you can. I think that's the most accurate way. If not, using measurements. I will be back on Thursday for another Facebook Live. I will be saving, so I tape both these videos on my camera, so I will be saving these videos, uploading it to YouTube. They'll also be posted on this Facebook group, but I hope that having the ability to comment in real time is more helpful than pre-recording the tutorial. So thanks again, guys. Again, I am so excited about Lawren. I love seeing all of your Lawrens pop up on Instagram, on IG, so keep it up.